Smylie Kaufman for 61. Wow.
I'm Smylie Kaufman, and this is The Smylie Show. All right, guys, welcome back. We have another great guest here on The Smylie Show with Brandel Chamblee, colleague of mine at NBC Sports and Golf Channel. And Brandel, you're not in America. You are already over in Scotland. We got the Open Championship coming out. This episode will be released Open Championship week. So you're already got the vibes going for us, Brandel. So tell us what you're doing over there so early.
Well, this is about the fourth or fifth year that my wife and I have come over early for the Open. We can't wait for the Open. And it's 110 degrees where we live in Scottsdale. So we always come over here early and just play links golf. The temperature is 55, 60 degrees. We love it. And, this year we've played, we got to Edinburgh, hung there for a day or so. Then we went and played St. Andrews. Then we drove to Machrihanish, which I had never played, but had read about for years. Obviously, it was one of the golf courses that Tom Doak wrote so favorably about. So it sort of piqued my interest. So I drove down there. And we played there, and we just literally got to Turnberry. So driving from St. Andrews to Machrihanish, don't you let anybody tell you the toughest drive in golf is the 18th at Carnoustie. It is not. It is the drive from anywhere to Machrihanish.
We're talking about in a motor vehicle, huh? How long did it take you?
So I don't know if you're a Beatles fan, but you know that song Long and Windy Road?
Yeah, I'm
Long
familiar
and Windy
with it.
Road is the road. That song is written about the road from, I don't know where the heck they started from, but down to Machrihanish. It's about 2 hours, and the speed limit is 60. And literally the speed limit should be 30 because it twists and turns and goes over hills and around corners and through forest. And maybe one car could fit comfortably on the road, but it's meant for two-way traffic. It was the most nerve-wracking down there and back experience. Like my wife the whole way, because it's beautiful. It's unbelievable. There's waterfalls and there's locks and inlets and streams and forests and green covered mountains. The whole way my wife's like, oh my God, that's incredible. And I'm like, take a picture of it. I'll see it when we get there. And you don't dare take your eyes off the road. You just don't dare. So I'm quite happy to have made it safely to Turnberry, where we're playing tomorrow.
What'd you like about the course though?
Machrihanish?
Yes.
So if you read, what Tom Doak, and, he's obviously one of the most foremost authorities on architecture. I mean, he goes on and on and on about the routing. I can't even imagine. It was designed by old Tom Morris in the mid 1870s. So I don't even know how he built this golf course on all these dunes. But the first hole is considered the best first hole in the world of golf.
That's what Jack Nicklaus said on the website. I was going to ask you about the first hole.
It's an incredible
what's cool about it?
Yeah, it's you have to cut across the ocean to get to the fairway, and the fairway sets at 4 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Mm-hmm. The fairway sits at a diagonal to you, so you got to carry the ocean and then shape it right to left to find the fairway. Otherwise, you end up in the hay.
Is the wind off the left, Brandel? Tell me the wind wasn't off the left.
The wind was off the left, hard.
Oh, God.
Hard off the left.
This is my nightmare. This is literally what's in my nightmares.
Yeah, so I'm on the first tee, and, everybody wants to come out and take pictures. And, the lady from Machrihanish, she wants to do a picture for social media. And I'm over here for sort of, hits and giggles. But I'm on that tee and I'm like, God, I do not need all this attention. I don't need photographs. I don't need, levity here.
You're just trying to go. You just want to go.
I just don't want to hit a big flaming fade slice out to the right and have 3-wood back into the screen. And I haven't, there's no warm up, they don't do ranges over here. They just don't do them. They do a lot of things well over here, but they don't do ranges well. So it's your first shot of the day. So I had a rather weak fade that somehow ended up in the fairway. Thank goodness. Everybody thought it was a great shot, but if I'd have been at home by myself, I might have thrown my driver. But I found the fairway. I had 6 iron in, and I I had this local caddy who just told me about every dangerous thing up by the green. It was kind of blind. But anyway, I sort of half whiffed a 6-iron up about 30 feet away and almost made birdie. So I was pretty happy with that. But anyway, it was blowing 30, 40 miles an hour. We got in last night. My wife was like, Scottish golf just beats you up. It's beautiful and it's fun, but the elements, because we played St. Andrews the day before and it blew 40. It blew 40 the day before. So we've had a marvelous time over here. Don't get me wrong. We'd love it. And we were going to play today when we got here, but the wind is blowing about 40 here and it's cold. And my wife was like, can we just have a day off from the elements?
Oh, gosh.
So anyway.
I feel that in my bones, too. I feel that.
Like, you would not have liked that first tee shot.
No, I would not have. I'm like just starting to get comfortable turning the ball over again. I had like a year where I literally couldn't hit anything other than the heel or close to the middle of the face, nothing even close to the toe. So if I did hit it right to left, it was an accident.
There's zero chance I was going to try to hit a draw off that tee. Like, hold it against the wind. I was like, I don't care. The wind was coming 40 off the left and it pushes you towards the ball. So you're automatically going to come over it and heat at it. And I was like, no, I don't care that, cause I told my caddy the line I was going to take and he looked horrified at me. He was like, that's like a 260 carry. And, I'm like all puffed up because I've been working on my swing speed. I'm like,
sure.
I got 260, no problem. But I looked at his face and I was like, oh, I guess I don't want to offend anybody here. I will take the 220 carry.
Hey, I like it. You're going to still work on the swing speed. You got to. And, St. Andrews is interesting too, because you said you just played there, and of course, if you recall back to the Open Championship that last had it there, it was 20 under par, so winning that golf tournament with Cam Smith winning, and just interesting too, Brandel, because I know you're such a big fan of course architecture and just the overall strategy in the game. And if you don't have those 40-mile-an-hour winds, you don't have the firm fairways or some roughs, something to challenge the top players in the world, St. Andrews isn't the same test that it was in past, decades of playing out there.
No, it's not, and, I'm not going to disparage St. Andrews. It's the most historic and most beautiful, and you feel like you're doing something extraordinary anytime you play there, and it's charming beyond compare. But if you just stumbled upon any golf course with the holes, let's say 1, 6, 9, 10, 12, I can't decide if it's the worst hole I've ever played in my life or it's one of the better holes I've ever played in my life. I just cannot decide. Okay? But nonetheless, if you stumbled upon 1, 6, 9, 10, 12, and 18 on any other golf course, you would go, what are these holes? They're 350 yards of grass. Now, there are some extraordinary holes in between those. But the charm of going out, I liken the first hole at St. Andrews to your mother just patting you on the butt as you're going off to school as a 7-year-old, And 18, your mom just wrapping her arms around you coming off the bus. They're just such sweet out and in holes. And, we had the local caddies that I've had this same caddy caddied for me in the 95 Open. He caddied for me in the 2018 Senior Open there. He's caddied for me every single time I've gone to St. Andrews. So I had him, and he's an old friend and a great guy. And for the first time ever, I played with a Royal and Ancient member, a woman by the name of Elaine Radcliffe. And then, which by the way was a bizarre dynamic, and her ex-husband played in our group, and they're like best friends. They were married, got divorced, and now they're friends, like great friends. So we played with them, with the caddies, and had a blast. And then we got to go in and do the full lunch, drinks.
Sure.
In the Royal and Ancient. So it was a spectacular day.
That is the idea. It really is for in-game live. You said it. The home team, who's a double-digit or close to it anyway, favorite, and get off to a bad start and actually have them trailing by 5, 6, 7 to the point where you get it at pick'em. And I don't know how many times. I'd like to know a stat of how many times a team that's been favored by double digits, trailed by double digits, and actually won the game. I bet it's a lot.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
You've got issues up and down here. The bullpen is falling apart, to put it nicely. And have you seen the schedule for the Yankees for the rest of the month of July here? We have Seattle, then we have the Cubs, then you have Atlanta, then you have Toronto again in Toronto. That really didn't go all that well this week. And then you have Philadelphia and Tampa. Good luck to the Yankees in July here.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
They're still trying to throw Dalton Knecht's name in trades, and I don't even know if he's viewed as a positive asset still.
And that's a crazy thing. Dalton Knecht, if you look at FanDuel, Dalton Knecht 20-plus points at plus 120. He's giving you no indication that he's that right there. I mean, Kevin, I would be more likely if we knew we were going to get the minutes. Bronny James, 10-plus points at plus 118.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Time for the Blue Jays to really make another addition at the deadline. They just got Max Scherzer back. Can they get another pitcher to help out with the pitching staff, which I still think is their biggest issue? They're looking in to be in a good spot right now.
And also, Tom, like just the evolution of handicapping, right? Early in the season, like, I don't want to take this Blue Jays lineup. Like, it's really bad. Now, the past couple weeks, like, every day I'm looking at the Blue Jays going like, ooh, team total, RBI chances, guys that were in household names at the beginning of the year.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
The next piece of content, which is a really cool video with Stephen Sweeney that we're really excited about, digging into analyzing the putting stroke and all the information that you can get in a high-end studio, what the pros use. And to do that, Smylie, we're going to tee it up. Stephen Sweeney, one of our favorite trust-based relationships. Our friends at Ahead build and manage digital platforms that power the most successful organizations in the world. Their consultative approach, unmatched engineering, and innovative solutions combine to accelerate the impact of technology in every client they serve. Ahead's longstanding relationships are built on outcomes and experience with both their clients and technology partners. You can learn more at ahead.com. That's a pretty appropriate TF, Smylie. Technology. What was the toy in Steven's studio that to you was like, whoa?
Oh gosh, there's still some good lessons that I take away from seeing Stephen in an incredible studio. But I'm such a visual learner when it comes to many things, whether it was school or just being able to incorporate things on the golf course that I could see versus kind of the concept of having to do something like do this, this, and this. It's like, well, no, let's put a stick out there and try to just fade it around the stick. Well, when it comes to the putting, I thought the visuals that he was able to create with the technology of, okay, so show me how far out this is, like where would you play this, and now draw me where the golf balls would be to get into the hole, and then we're going to test to see what the line is, to see if you're over or under reading putts. That's something that I still kind of work on now, and that left to righters are something that I've kind of struggled with in my career, and just a good lesson on how to be a little better with left to right putts. And you can learn about it in the video, but I definitely use some tools that he kind of talks about on how to be better at left to right putts.
This episode, this next piece of this episode is much better consumed on YouTube. It's more visual. You can, of course, listen to it on the podcast if you'd like to, but go to our YouTube to watch that full thing. There is a moment in this video that is going to blow your mind as it relates to just Smylie's skill as a putter. I want you to comment. Either you're watching this tomorrow or Thursday on YouTube. Drop us a comment when you see that moment, or on the podcast, come over and check it out. It blew my mind. It blew Steven's mind. It's really, really cool to see a measuring of Smylie's putting in that way. So look forward to that. Hope you enjoy this video and this conversation with Stephen Sweeney at his putting studio down in Florida.
All right, we're here in Jupiter, Florida at Stephen Sweeney's putting studio, surrounded by lots of fancy tech that I hope neither of us break in the short term, Smylie. And what do we got on deck for today?
Well, we have fantastic technology. I'm going to get underneath the hood and see what's good, what's working, what isn't. And then we're going to let you get under the hood and see if we need to get a whole new car. I think that's kind of what we're here to see today. And we got one of the best in the world here to take a peek.
That's right. There's nobody better than Stephen Sweeney to take a look, because Stephen instructs players on tour: Colin Morikawa, Shane Lowry, Akshay Bhatia, young up-and-comers like Michael Thorbjornsen, Blades Brown. I'm forgetting a bunch of other names, but the point is that Stephen teaches the best. And now he can add 2 more names to that list today: Smylie Kaufman and Charlie Hulme. So I mean, that list is going to keep growing.
Well, there's a chance that he might walk out with either a broomstick putter like Akshay, the 2-ball like we saw Shane Lowry use forever, or maybe even a saw grip that Colin Morikawa has. Who knows? This guy's a tinkerer.
Or the this little kind of what a Scottish looking putter we have over here. Stephen, just give us just an overview of what you hope to achieve with us today and what we're going to be kind of working on.
Yeah, so it's going to be obviously very much, Smylie's regarded as one of the better putters out there on the tour. Great fundamentals. I want to see what he does. I'm going to maybe have a look at a little technical data, some green reading stuff. Maybe talk a little bit about some visuals that he looks at whenever he's putting. Obviously with you, Charlie, I have seen your putting stroke before.
Regarded as one of the best amateur putters out there in and around the tour.
Here we go.
We're going to see what we can do and how we can make this as painless as possible for everyone.
Painless is good. Painless is good.
All right, what's up, guys? This is not normal. So this is quite the outfit I have on here. We're actually in some gears, 3D capture. I guess you can call it a uniform. It's not the most stylistic thing in the world, but I think what we're going to try to accomplish is trying to figure out for me where my stroke's at, what I'm good at, and then how we can improve in some areas that I feel like when I get on the course, going away from just what a straight putt is and what looks good to my eye, and where I'm like, man, I don't know what happens in situations like this. So I'm hoping that we can figure that out today. I know you're one of the best at what you do, so happy to get to work.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's going to be cool. I mean, a lot of the time when guys come in here, they're like, oh, well, this guy must be putting so bad. Sometimes the best lessons or the best data collections have been, when someone's actually putting really well and they want to see what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's something we actually did earlier. I worked with Michael Thorbjornsen the day after he finished second at Sea Island back in the fall. Mm-hmm. And today he came in and was able to cross-reference where he's at now versus where he was at when he's putting great. So collecting data when you're actually putting really good, probably just as important as collecting it whenever you're putting bad.
I don't think I've ever really collected too much data on my putters, so I'm actually curious to see what I do well and any areas I can improve, really.
Perfect. Let's go for it. So,
all right. So just regular putts here?
We're on a flat putt. We're going to start with that. Let you hit a few to sort of get comfortable with all the getup that you got on. I mean, pretty easy when you're as good as you, Smylie.
I've always been a good putter for the most part, ever since I was a kid. I, at times, was a little streaky on the PGA Tour. This is when I had a 36-inch putter. I'm down to, I would say, closer to 34 to 35. I'm not sure exactly what this is, but I've really worked hard on my lines over the years. At times, I tend to get kind of too open with my body. Aimer gets too far to the right, and then left to righters, I kind of tend to struggle.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So kind of just to give you an idea, obviously we got a lot of good players through here, and the thing that we're going to try and baseline everything off is on a flat putt to start with. So we've got a lot of your 3D stuff already captured here. We're going to look at in a second.
Should I just go and make all 5?
Let's go. Just make them all.
Okay.
There we go. Love it. All righty.
I say, you crank that Soldier Boy, right? You Darvish back on the mound. Haven't seen this guy in a minute right now. Yeah, man, crank it, man. Get it going up. Get the high. Yeah, let's go. Crank that Soldier Boy up here. Yeah. I mean, come on, man. That was big back then. Where were you? Senior high school? Or maybe even in grade school then?
Bar mitzvah slate. In the bar mitzvah slate each and every weekend. The young Benny Steve was out there hitting it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Tony Gwynn had 107 career at-bats against Greg Maddux. Never struck out once.
That's nuts.
In 107 times. 107. Cam, if you took the modern player and said, are you going to face Maddux 107 times in a row? Like Vlad Guerrero Jr. and these guys, they'd strike out like 62 times type thing.
Exactly.
They'd be like 80 times. They'd be like whiffing.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Scrounge out a couple of quarters from under the couch to go trade for somebody who actually makes some money. I don't think that he would actually do that. That's not in Hal's style the last couple of years, especially in season. I saw they signed that Heimer Candelario, who the Reds released. That's more their style, going the discount aisle as opposed to trading for someone who's actually having a huge year like Suarez.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I would be looking to get him in dynasty or keeper leagues. If I'm out of a league and I'm looking to rebuild for the next years ahead, that's where I'm looking. Yuri Perez is a special young pitcher that we're going to be talking about in that Paul Skeens, in that Tariq Skubal, in that grouping of guys. I think he can be that good. He's only 22 years old. He's the boy. So you're getting a situation here where Yuri Perez eventually is going to grow into that man of a pitcher.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
We've got obviously your 3D data for your body and your club over here on the left. And we've got, the regular 2D video, which I'm sure you've done a lot of work on in the past.
See how accurate this is, the biceps here? Let's just zoom in on this little guy. I mean, come on.
Yeah, fully ripped there, Smylie.
You got to appreciate Gears making sure the mannequin looks absolutely yoked.
Exactly. You're statistically a very good putter. For most of your career, made a lot of putts. So what we're kind of looking at is, what exactly is the body doing? What's the club doing? And you kind of mentioned you worked on your lines a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And you can kind of see here, when we look at that over the top view, you can see really good lines with your setup, much as you can here in kind of the video as well. The reason that I use this is I'm not able to see, half a degree here and there.
Yeah.
Whereas this can, I'm still really using this, but this is kind of giving me like a CT scan as to what's going on. And your listeners are obviously fairly avid golfers and pretty knowledgeable. The hole is only about 1 degree of error at 10 feet. So it's impossible for me to see 1 degree with the eyes. So we use this. You display a lot of the really great tendencies of great putters. Your aim, this is incredible. You're 7/100ths of a degree closed with your putter face at aim.
I gotta get better. Gotta keep working at it. That's what you're saying.
So this is just about as good as it gets. So we know that you're in the perfect posture and your putter is the right fitted putter for what you see.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are things, you've obviously kind of changed putter recently.
Yeah.
And it's something it's perfect for you setup wise. As you move through the stroke, we get that face moving along the arc, top of the backswing. You're fairly low face rotation guy, I would say. It opens about 4 degrees to the putt. Have you always kind of used that face mallet, face balanced?
When I was on the PGA Tour, I used a blade putter, and I tended to feel like I would try to open the toe. I used to always watch Tiger Woods do that gate drill with his right hand. And so when you had a blade, you would really feel the toe open and close.
Yes.
And so I had that feeling with the blade, and I think I got a little too inconsistent inside of 8 feet with the just general timing of that.
Yeah.
So I went to a mallet and started working my lines more, and then started to feel like every day it kind of started to look more the same, and I could just focus on just general body rotation. That makes sense.
That's something that's pretty interesting. Is a lot of players, me included, growing up watching Tiger, especially listening to him and talking about, how he used to really release the putter and release the toe and stuff. And I keep this putter as my teaching putter because it's about as, little low tech as you can get. And it's one of those where I find it really easy to explain stroke mechanics with something like this.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever...
Because you see the toe opening and closing a ton, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So like whenever I set up and I just de-loft the putter, I haven't actually rotated it, the toe goes behind the heel.
Yeah.
And then when I re-loft it, it squares up. And when I add loft it, the toe passes the heel.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have misinterpreted what Tiger's feel was.
Yeah.
Is that with the great putters, we never, and when you watch Tiger do that one-handed drill, you never see him do this. You always saw him kind of de-loft, re-loft, add loft, which on a 2D camera sitting in front of him looked like the toe went behind the heel and then past it. But a lot of people at home, I think, and a lot of tour pros we get through here, they actually think they're supposed to
open the face,
open and close it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of what you're describing is it maybe got a little too inconsistent.
Yeah, I would always battle it getting a little too outside.
Yeah.
So just general disconnection right from the get-go was something that I felt like got off the most. So I would focus on just that the backswing, and that seemed to always clean up for me what I felt like was the through stroke.
Yeah, you can kind of see obviously a lot of the good work you've done here, especially as we start into that downswing. Something that we're measuring on gears, I kind of alluded to a little bit early in our conversation, this efficiency number. This is how much of your stroke is the face relative to the arc better than 1 degree. So that face currently is 5 degrees open to the hole, but it's barely closed to your actual arc. And as you come through, really through impact, you can see how that just gets cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. So we started with your face aiming within 0.07 degrees. We're now half a degree at impact.
Yeah.
So that's gonna, relative to making a putt, that's actually about 20 feet away from the hole before you would miss. Okay, so on a straight putt, no break, no spike marks, no wind, you're not gonna make a mistake.
New to social casinos? You're in for a treat. Most online casinos offer bonus cash or coins just for signing up. That's your own little participation trophy. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
One that really sticks out to me the most, George, and he's having a fantastic season, is James Wood of the Washington Nationals. I mean, yes, Cal Raleigh's fantastic. Don't get me wrong. He's like a candidate for MVP of the American League. But every time I look up, George, James Wood is either getting 5 hits or being walked 4 times in a game. What a season for this guy.
And he's so young. Was he 22? So what a future this kid has ahead of him.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Cooper flag against Bronny James feels like Mike DeCourcy against Mike Tyson. I'm sorry. I mean, let's be real about this. We're talking about a generational prospect in Cooper Flag and LeBron's kid who averaged 5.5 points in his 1 year at Division I basketball. I'm not saying LeBron is a poor player, but I don't see him as an equal attraction or an equal.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
You don't want a big that's camped out under the basket and clogging the lane. He provides a lot of really good defense, a lot of three-point shooting, and again, younger than Brook Lopez. It is a good match. I just don't think it moves the needle, but as we talked about to open the show, when Giannis Antetokounmpo was saying, we're not just going to sit here this year and say, oh, Dame's down, let's just take a pause year because I'd rather go try to chase a championship. So at least they're being honest and saying, we're going to make this team better.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
So one of the things I like to test guys on is, obviously we know this is a 2%er, but if you're not an aim point guy, then that doesn't really mean anything, okay? So do you, I'm assuming, see a curve more than a straight line?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead and hit a couple more for me, please. Shut it down. Yeah. The whole thing? Yeah.
Oh, that's drippy.
He's got his left to righters down already. So a really good drill, Smylie, that a lot of your listeners, a lot of the people that, like to practice at home and stuff, if they don't see a straight line, if they see a curve, I like to test guys' reads by having them place the balls on the curve they see. Mm-hmm. So if we kind of give you, roughly three to four different golf balls along your line, I want you to do the work and put them out where you think they would be. I'm just going to turn off the lights here a little bit. You think you're perfect?
Like relative to, this is drip speed, right? Like this is me just barely getting it there.
Yeah.
This is like my fast greens. I'm taking more of a high line. I wouldn't be any higher than this. Yeah.
Okay. So, obviously just so people understand the difference, this is aim point.
Okay.
And
my line's right on that.
Here's ideal putt.
Yeah.
So you're on that high side, drippy side of the putt. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that, as a if you're on these left to right putts, getting those balls out there, and then, I like to put one of those little flat ball markers just underneath it, and see if
you'll put it on the
low side.
Oh, okay.
And just take the balls away and see if I actually can just hit it a little bit. I'm always trying to miss high if possible, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
You're not giving me much to work with here because this is pretty much better than I've ever seen anybody set this drill up, okay?
Well, there you go.
So
for me, I still get over here and I just try to focus on speed and then just being able to get into like what my square feels like.
Yes.
So I get in here, but then I start fighting looking at the hole.
Yes.
So I get here and then my eyes start to go here, right of the line.
Yeah.
And then I'm constantly trying to figure out, oh crap, I'm over the lines this far left.
Yeah.
And I just kind of get stuck in this no man's land of do I need to push or pull this putt to make it?
Yeah.
Especially when I get outside of 8 feet.
Sure. That's one of the things, like a lot of great putters have read their putts from over the ball. Probably one of the best putters I've ever worked with was Alex Noren.
Yeah.
And Alex's best read was always in a setup position. So he'd get the general read from behind and he'd kind of put a line down, but then he'd really dial in his entire read from over the ball.
Right.
And I think for great players like yourself, you really need to understand the process of where do you get the best read. And then obviously from that, you might actually be better at finding something closer to you that you can aim at.
Almost like drawing the line and kind of working your way up.
Yes, like that first ball.
Yeah. Like, all right, where's the hole, right?
Yeah. So if we had you just aim at that first ball and kind of keep things a little bit tighter, closer together for you, so that you can set up your entire, your square, your lines to that. And now go ahead and just hit a putt, trying to hit that first ball. Perfect. So that's then picking a spot right in front of you along that curve. I think is going to give you a little bit more consistency and a little bit better feel and seeing that left to right a bit better, rather than letting you look way out there at the hole and starting to get low maybe on where you're aiming.
Okay, so you go a little more that way, okay.
And then when you come back down the line, make sure that you find that spot. Beautiful.
Yeah. When I putted my best, my eyes don't spend a whole lot of time once I get back here staring.
Yeah.
I feel like it kind of locks me up a little bit. And if anything, I would rather my eyes be so quiet that it's almost like I'm not even noticing anything. I just want to be in this space to be able to focus on speed, really.
Yeah. It's something that with like Shane Lowry, we've noticed that when he's putted his best and then maybe when he's struggled, the time that when his eyes come back to the ball, when he putts really good, he almost doesn't even see the putter go back.
Yeah.
They like almost just see the glance of the ball and the putter starts moving because he's still so connected to the actual target. I would say for you, the only, sort of you talking me through your tendencies, I would just say when you're coming back down the line, make sure you've got this reference point of where you actually want to start. And once your eyes are back as far as here, then you can actually just go ahead and pull the trigger. And you're not going to get stuck over the ball. A little bit more speed and you got it.
Yeah, I've always felt like when I get here and I'm lining it up and I get my spot, I feel like I'm square. My first look is at the hole, but it's honestly like I wonder if I'd be better off trying to find something here like you're saying, but I don't want to lose my picture of where the hole is.
Correct, yeah.
So I guess that's kind of where I get lost, is this spot here, how important it is to me to know what straight is and not to get me locked up.
Yeah, so if I take obviously away the aim point line, we've only got a curve now.
Mm-hmm.
So, basically your eyes have to see that curve, and yes, the hole has to be relative for speed. I mean, that's a great putt.
So that drill you were talking about, when you put all the golf balls out like this,
yeah,
you would just put little
dots just below it. I'm a big believer that when you practice this enough and you actually have the visual, when you get to the golf course, it'll look better. So if we now kind of make this a little bit more realistic to the golf course, I'm just going to put a white dot here and take away the laser.
I'm curious to see how I do now.
Now we've just got your spot out there. You're going to still keep the picture of the perfect speed, but we're just going to make sure that we don't start the ball towards the hole. We still start it towards the spot that we picked. So you hit it right over that dot.
Did I?
Yeah.
Go! Ah!
It's right over it.
I kind of lost picture of it at the end, but I felt like I was really square to it in the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the beginning part is where I really need to be, like right when I set up, I kind of get that spot, and then I kind of get more in that picture mode.
Absolutely. It's right over the left edge of it.
Yeah, just a little firm. So if I want to take a little more aggressive line,
you would be,
I'm going to be more on the right edge of it.
Splitting the right edge of it, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that was a good putt.
That was really good. Really, really good. I think that was a little, maybe you moved that a little too far.
Too far right?
Yeah, you went from starting it at 0 degrees up, see here, tells you relative to the actual perfect line. You were at 0, 0, and now you're starting at like 2 degrees right of perfect.
Well, we have found my area of struggle. Cash.
I think it's really important as well. You can see now why, you were 100% make on straight putts. Why does the tour go down to about 35% at 13 feet when you add in some break?
Yes.
And it's one of those things I always talk to my players about, strokes gained. This metric, it's awesome to evaluate your putting over the course of a season.
Mm-hmm.
But over the course of a day, it's almost worthless information, because if I hit it to 13 feet every day, 18 holes in a row, well, if I'm putting across a 4% slope, I'm not going to make very many, but I'm going to lose a lot of strokes.
Yeah.
Whereas if I hit it to 13 feet and I'm below the pin putting straight uphill all day, I'm going to shoot 59.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
They're still trying to throw Dalton Knecht's name in trades, and I don't even know if he's viewed as a positive asset still.
And that's a crazy thing. Dalton Knecht, if you look at FanDuel, Dalton Knecht 20-plus points at plus 120. He's giving you no indication that he's that right there. I mean, Kevin, I would be more likely if we knew we were going to get the minutes. Bronny James, 10 plus points at plus 118.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
I mean, Houston beat the snot out of the Dodgers, 18-1. And this is what happens here. Oral Hershiser doing the game for the Dodgers brings up the cheating scandal, going, oh, they must know the science because they're hitting curveballs that they know it's coming. It's like, oh boy, did you really want to go down that rabbit hole again here? I think this is one of those nights where they got destroyed. Yeah, hey, it happens in baseball here. But just found that an interesting comment by Oral Hershiser. Start bringing up the cheating scandal again.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Dude, you have a head coach in Jim Harbaugh that's proven he will cheat to win. He will win at the biggest stage and doesn't give a damn who cares or finds out, and he'll just move on. That's what I love about a coach. That's the type of coach that I want. Win at all costs. Now, also, at all costs means, like, how are we building this team? Because I actually thought Harbaugh would come in and say, okay, let me just see what the players on the roster is. We'll weed them out after a year, but there's a lot of talent. He built that foundation last year and still made the playoffs.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Tony Gwynn had 107 career at-bats against Greg Maddux. Never struck out once.
Oh, that's nuts.
In 107 times. 107. Cam, if you took the modern player and said, are you going to face Maddux 107 times in a row? Like Vlad Guerrero Jr. and these guys, they'd strike out like 62 times type thing.
Exactly.
They'd be like 80 times. They'd be like whiffing.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, Stephen, you've completed the professional portion of this lesson, and I've got some bad news for you, okay? I am the worst case scenario putter tinkerer, every bad habit that goes along with putting. I can't settle on a type of stroke. I can't settle on anything specific or consistent in the game. The good news is you got a lot of mid-handicap amateurs out there that are in the same exact boat. Yeah. So now we're going to work, going from pros to amateurs. What changes in terms of your approach when you're instructing?
Yeah, so obviously, like you kind of alluded to it, where amateurs actually feel like a little different when they walk in here because they know that the space is generally reserved for the tour pro.
A lot of fancy tech in here, Steven. I'm a little uncomfortable right now.
There is a lot of tech in here.
Yeah.
But I think what will happen is when you spend more time in here and you kind of see what we're going to do, it relates the same as it does to the tour pro. We kind of follow the same process. Maybe, we kind of dumb it down just a little bit.
There's a little bit more than
just a little bit. But, a lot of the tech that we use and a lot of the data we capture, we don't necessarily I'd say show that or explain that to the player because we really want them to be sort of staying in the moment of, using their craft to get the ball in the hole and just giving them the absolute necessary pieces of information. So it's going to be pretty similar. Okay. One of the things that we're going to do is we've labeled up your putter with these little reflective markers on them.
Oh, and I've already broken one.
That's the only one that could fall off, so okay. That's okay. The rest of them we need to keep on there. It's good for the outtakes.
That's
So
breaking equipment.
These are going to be tracked by these 8 cameras around the room. These are infrared cameras. A lot of your viewers, listeners, probably have seen these on EA Sports games, like
video game capture.
Yes,
yeah.
Like a famous guy that makes a golf game every few years.
I've heard of him.
This is how they capture their swings.
Yeah.
So we're going to use the same tech that we did with Smylie, and we're going to capture your putting stroke. So we're going to get a 3D view of how that putter moves back and forward, where you're aiming it, where you're hitting the ball. We've obviously got the other video cameras that are actually going to just simply look at you in a 2D world. And then we're actually going to start moving around a little bit with the floor. Okay, so we're going to give you some different breaking putts. So really, we're going to test your stroke mechanics. We're going to give you some achievable drills that you want to practice with as far as stroke. And then, really importantly, we're going to test speed and read, obviously to be a little bit more like the real world outside.
Yeah, I'd love it if every putt was a straight 12-footer. Really nice.
Yeah, we all would.
That's not the case, right? Yeah.
So it's one of those things where from 8 feet, the best players in the world are only 51% successful on average. But yet, whenever they come in here, we're hitting a 13-foot putt.
Yeah.
They generally almost never miss on the straight. So there is a huge difference between going from that straight putt to a breaking putt. So we're gonna find all where the skeletons
Got the
are here.
TGL plates moving around.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
Exactly. So you wanna actually go ahead and start hitting some putts for me, just to get a feel for the speed of the green, speed of the putt. Obviously, it's a straight putt, so don't need to give you a read or anything on it.
I'd hope not. Oh, great. Just leave the first one short. That's really good. Yeah, there
Should
we go.
say for disclaimer, this is a 13 on the stimp meter, so...
I'm just really being careful.
That was,
that
was some...
You don't want to race the first one past, and then you're playing defense the rest of the time. Okay, speed's getting a little better.
What tends to be your miss?
Yeah, so I think a couple, there are two tendencies that I kind of noticed when using a line on the ball, is that I aim for the right, that when I aim right of my target, it feels like it's straight.
Okay.
And so then on a, and then if I have to aim left, like it feels like I'm open when I'm really actually aimed straight.
I gotcha.
And then I think just I've been working on a little bit just of like the tempo of the stroke.
Sure.
Recently, and I think that is at times where I can kind of get caught in between, where it's either gets too quick or I feel like I'm it's kind of stopping and the momentum's lost a little bit. So just kind of trying to find the right back and through tempo on the putt is a struggle for me.
So you got a couple of different things going on, it sounds like.
Yeah, well, more than a couple of things, but those are the two that I'm willing to share with you right now. So.
There we go. Just needed some therapy, just talk it out.
That's right. You guys got like a couch in here I can sit on, And so right now, as I'm doing this, you're just gathering all this motion capture information right now.
I'm just gathering a bunch of data, letting you kind of hit a few putts, and kind of really interested in seeing, the different types of outcomes of the putt and what actually went on whenever you hit that putt mechanically through the stroke. So that's something that we're kind of trying to just capture as we go.
Yeah, that one's smashed.
There we go.
Okay.
So I know this is, getting started maybe a little ahead of where we're trying to be, but just something I think a lot of your viewers, a lot of your listeners would really appreciate. Even on a straight putt, actually thinking about what speed do you want to make the putt really helps. So whenever I work with even the best players in the world, we want to make sure that they decide what's their entry speed going to be. So we number them sort of 1 through 4. So 1 would be a putt that just almost like Tiger's chip at Augusta, that year the Nike symbol stayed on the hole and then fell in.
Yeah.
Like that would be your 1 speed, like last roll, versus like a 4 speed would hit the back of the cup, jump up and then go in. Okay. 2 kind of just goes in at regular, maybe foot past speed, and 3 would go in quite firm, hit the back of the cup.
Sure.
And the reason that I like to talk about entry speed rather than distance by the hole is we're talking about making the putt, whereas if we're talking about distance past the hole, mentally we're not thinking about actually the ball going in the hole. So I really like to talk about what entry speed do you want to choose. So if you're somebody that wants to die the ball in the hole, even on a straight putt, I want you to pay attention to, hey, am I holding this putt at the same speed every single time, even if it's just a straight putt? So I'm going to challenge you now just for 3 more putts before we look at all this data to see, can you give me 3 putts that arrive at the hole at the same speed, even if they go in or don't go in, but just if they kind of get there around the same speed for me.
And do you want that to be a 1 or a 2 or 3, just as long as they're all the same speed?
I'm going to leave it up to you, whatever you want to choose, okay? I mean, what is your preferred speed?
That's a great question. That's something I've never thought about, and it's why it's an interesting exercise.
Flag against Bronny James feels like Mike DeCourcy against Mike Tyson. I'm sorry. I mean, let's be real about this. We're talking about a generational prospect in Cooper Flag, and LeBron's kid who averaged 5.5 points in his 1 year at Division I basketball. I'm not saying LeBron is a poor player, but I don't see him as an equal attraction or an equal.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Things you have to look at is what the team has the following day, especially when it comes to bullpen usage. You know, a lot of the things I like to attack is you see these extra inning games, these games get drawn out, these bullpens get worn, or if someone gets shelled the first 3 innings and they got to go to the pen, you know, early, you know, that's a good spot to kind of hop in the middle of the next game. You know, you got a tired bullpen, right? You try and take advantage there, maybe with an over, maybe with the money line. You're getting plus money on a favorite at that point.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Of an interesting couple of weeks in California. If you recall, just I think it was 2 weeks ago, language was inserted into a bill that would outlaw or ban sweepstakes casinos and sports betting, which of course we've seen lots of that happen this year. So California is an interesting market because, as you've said, there is no legal online casino. There is no legal online sports betting.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Devin Booker had to run the point when Chris Paul was hurt. And we're like, Devin Booker's a point guard. Devin Booker's not a point guard. Neither is Jalen Green. So I need to know, once you get rid of Bradley Beal, who cannot be on that team, who is the point guard? And then I think as a sixth man, I actually don't mind it with Jalen Green.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
My follow-up question to you was going to be on that front with pros is that obviously situationally you might want to, on a quick downhiller, have it be a 1, right? Or, you know, if you're hitting a putt back up the hill, that maybe needs to be a 3. I mean, does that vary, or is it more of like this guy likes to see this always go in at like a 1 or a 2, so do that. Maybe another one of your guys likes it at a 3 or a 4, always do that.
Yeah, you know, you get guys, I would use Daniel Berger as a good example.
Okay.
You know, maybe Colin, Shane Lowry. Those guys, I would say, tend to be a little bit more conservative on the speed, but then they actually read their putts for the higher line that it's going in at, you know, a really manageable speed. There are players out there, one that I don't teach and he's a great putter is Denny McCarthy.
Yeah.
Denny's big on hitting his putts pretty firm. You know, we play out at Medalist a lot, and when I see Danny practicing out there, he really practices with a lot of pretty firm speed, and he reads his putts for firm speed. A lot of great putters have used slightly firmer speed. I know someone like Brad Faxon would say, you know, when you see the ball go past the hole, it's easier to make it coming back because you already know the line. Okay, so I'm a big fan of, you know, kind of choosing 2 as a speed general. But, you know, you get to Riviera or somewhere like Augusta, you get these downhill putts. You know, they're trickling in on the last roll. Whereas the uphills, you can be a little bit more aggressive with them for sure. But it's something that you need to decide on what you want to do before you hit the putt. It's really going to help then when we start hitting non-straight putts.
Yeah.
It'll help you be more consistent with your reads.
Okay, so I like that sort of that 2-ish range.
See, that's perfect as a 2. Maybe a 1.5.
Okay.
That's kind of where we want it. You know, that's like a 1.5, 1.5. Yeah. So, you know, that might be the speed that you actually feel more comfortable at holding putts. But, you know, the philosophy around putting, understanding what you're trying to do, it's easier to do it if you actually have a clear picture of what you're trying to do. I always reference the Moneyball philosophy, you know, the movie with Brad Pitt and baseball. Yeah. So I always reference Moneyball, and I always reference, you know, like blackjack. You know, on 17, you're not supposed to hit on blackjack, okay? And there's a philosophy of how you're supposed to play it. Moneyball, you know, it's not about hitting the Hail Mary, okay? It's about, you know, getting on base and doing that over and over and over again. So if the best players in the world are only 51% successful on average from 8 feet. You know, when we get to 10, 15, 20 feet as an amateur player, everyone's trying to make the shot. They're trying to go for the Hail Mary. They're trying to have that like walk-off home run. Whereas a lot of amateur players would score better if they just assured that they two-putted from 20 feet.
Yeah.
And they got the ball right up beside the hole.
It's amazing, but you know, God forbid that you go 2 down autos to your buddy on the weekend for not making the 15-foot bomb.
So that's a perfect two.
That's 2 right there. Right?
That's a perfect 2. It didn't hit the back wall of the cup. It didn't just barely trickle over. And that's kind of, you know, what we would read most putts for. Okay,
Great.
So if we have a look at these putts now that you hit,
okay,
I kind of always leave these images on here up top. Cam Smith and Tiger Woods. This was Tiger in, I think, 97 or 98 at Isleworth doing the photo shoot for his book, How I Play Golf.
Yeah.
This is one of the images from it. This is Cam Smith pretty recently. And just, you know, 20 years apart, just how similar their posture was. And one of the things that I really like to look at is, you know, just for any amateur out there, the shaft angle and the forearm angle really matching each other. And the big thing for me is, you know, both their lower backs are pretty straight, but then their upper back is really curved over and really relaxed and letting their head really fall down. Like Tiger's face is almost parallel to the top of his putter. So, you know, a lot of people will remember Michelle Wee with that tabletop putting stance. You know, I always use the back of the neck and the head as a reference. I don't ever want to see players fully bent over.
Yeah.
But really from kind of the rib cage up, I like to see a lot of roundedness in the shoulders. And then, you know, that allows the arms to kind of hang freely. And then we fit the putter to that posture so that we can match up the shaft lines.
That's interesting because, like, I feel like a lot just looking at my own video, or you hear people say anecdotally, you know, that the roundedness doesn't necessarily look like an athletic posture.
Yeah.
But then you look at 2 of the greatest ever, and it's like, well, that's exactly what they're doing right here.
100%.
I said, you crank that Soldier Boy, right? You Darvish back on the mound. Haven't seen this guy in a minute right now. Yeah, man, crank it, man. Get it going up. Get the high. Yeah, let's go. Crank that Soldier Boy up here. Yeah. I mean, come on, man. That was big back then. Where were you? Senior high school? Or maybe even in grade school?
Dude. Bar mitzvah slate. In the bar mitzvah slate each and every weekend. The young Benny Steve was out there hitting it.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Tony Gwynn had 107 career at-bats against Greg Maddux. Never struck out once.
Oh,
that's nuts.
In 107 times. 107. Cam, if you took the modern player and said, are you going to face Maddux 107 times in a row? Like Vlad Guerrero Jr. and these guys, they'd strike out like 62 times type thing.
Exactly.
It'd be like 80 times. It'd be like whiffing.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
Scrounge out a couple of quarters from under the couch to go trade for somebody who actually makes some money. I don't think that he would actually do that. That's not in Hal's style the last couple of years, especially in season. I saw they signed that Heimer Candelario, who the Reds released. That's more their style, going the discount aisle as opposed to trading for someone who's actually having a huge year like Suarez.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
I would be looking to get him in dynasty or keeper leagues. If I'm out of a league and I'm looking to rebuild for the next years ahead, that's where I'm looking. Yuri Perez is a special young pitcher that we're going to be talking about in that Paul Skeens, in that Tariq Skubal, in that grouping of guys. I think he can be that good. He's only 22 years old. He's the boy. So you're getting a situation here where Yuri Perez eventually is going to grow into that man of a pitcher.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.